So welcome and thank you for joining us for our online academic orientation. This session is suited for students entering the humanities field. My name is Natalie. I'm a fourth year studying human geography and environmental studies, so I take a mix of both humanities and social science courses. I'm joined today with Professor Richard, who I will let further introduce themselves.
Thank you very much, Natalie. So, as you said, my name is Jean-Olivier Richard. I'm a teacher in the Christianity and Culture program at St. Mike's. I also teach courses in the book and media, and to some extent recently in the computer science department. I'm a historian of science by training, and I've joined the faculty at St. Mike's in 2017, so still considered a relatively junior faculty here. So.
Nice, yes. And do you want to share what first year courses you teach or any upper year courses that you'd recommend to some students?
So I guess since I'm addressing the incoming class here, I would invite you to take a look at a course called Intelligence, Artificial and Human, which is one of the first year foundation courses that were recently put in place by the university. This is a neat course. It is co-taught, in fact, simultaneously by two professors, myself, as well as Professor Gerald Penn from the computer science department. And what we do is we have a conversation, so seminar-style conversation on the history, philosophy behind, and even the literary implications of artificial intelligence, and as well as reflecting on what it means to be human in the process. So an exciting venture, and there's two courses really that you can enroll in, and as St. Michael's students, you would be allowed to enroll in both, but you have to pick one or the other. One is under the SMC course code, the other under the SCS, that is the computer science one.
I cannot recommend first year foundation courses enough. I was a part of one myself, and it was an amazing opportunity to have the seminar style of lecture in your first year, being in a smaller environment and working directly with a professor. It really helps you practice better studying skills as well as interacting with other students and professors.
Exactly. And as we know, this fall is likely going to be a bit different than the typical experience, but all the more reasons, in fact, to consider seminar, because if we have to meet, it's going to be in, small confined areas, but, with only a few students. And if things take place online, as some will likely do, this is much better than being one of 600 students in a section.
It still allows you to have the interactive element. You could always do a big Zoom session.
Otherwise, in terms of teaching, I teach all matters of courses having to do with the relationship between Christianity and science, and I teach those at the 200, 300, and 400 level. So you should take a look at this. If you're interested in science fiction, I'm also teaching a course on this topic, and as well as some great books type curriculum. One of the things we're trying to do at St. Mike's when we can, we've got relatively small courses in our programs, is to offer either co-taught courses or at least small classroom experiences.
Perfect. Yeah, integrating lots of different elements into education. Yeah. So is there any general advice you would give to incoming students specific to your program? This could be anything from study habits to scheduling. Any general advice you give right off the bat?
Turn off your cell phone. And not just for me in the classroom, I mean, just in life in general. Try to learn to live without it.
It does wonders for your focus, and yeah.
But I'll say joke aside, it's not a joke. You really should get your cell phones. But let's say you're not able to do that. My advice would be not to overload yourself. You'll feel the pressure to complete your undergraduate degree in a 4-year period, because that's what the standard sort of idea people have of the university education is. But there's really no rule regarding this. And in fact, the average time that students take to complete, and maybe Natalie, I don't know if you will fall on the average or not, is longer than 4, all the way to 5 years very often. So if you have the time, you have the means to in fact take a slightly lesser load in your first, perhaps even in your second semester, I would strongly recommend you do so. Simply because there's a big transition between high school and university in terms of workload. And you may feel like you're up to the task, but you'll only figure out if you are once you're in the midst of it. And rather than setting yourself for unnecessary failures, you may want to take your time. And there's always summer courses you can take later if you really want to finish, within 4 years.
Exactly. And it's very doable to finish in the 4 years if you want to do a lighter course load one semester. For example, personally, in my first semester of first year, I took 4 courses and then I took 1 in the summer, just like you said, to have a better transition from high school to university, which it can be difficult, but that was always a helpful thing for me, and it gets you in the groove of university learning.
Yeah. And I certainly, students who actually enjoy university and can afford it, there's nothing wrong on an employer's side of thing or graduate school side of thing to see that you've taken an extra year to round up your degree with some electives and just, again, do well rather than do quickly.
Yes, that's something so important to remember, and to enjoy yourself and to allow yourself to take those elective courses, because it makes university such amazing experience.
Not just that, but it gives you time for, the world around, the classroom as well. So the collegiate experience, reaches beyond the seminar room.
Yes, yeah. And on that note, would you encourage students to participate in extracurriculars? And if you do, what extracurriculars would you recommend?
Anything that keeps you sane, right, is essential. Again, there may be some, things that are usually available that won't be this fall. But here's the rule of thumb. You probably have some kind of hobby or some kind of activity you like to do. Make sure not to stop doing those because you feel that there's too much work that takes priority. It's incumbent to explore what's available to you on and around campus in order to balance your work life, study life with your entertainment. And in many cases that will strengthen the bonds you'll make with other students. So one thing I do, for instance, is I've been offering since I arrived weekly Tai Chi lessons and courses, martial arts, different kinds, and there's several martial artists in the faculty and staff of the university that, in a sense, take turn with students who are interested in pursuing this, whether you got experience or not. A colleague of mine, Michael O'Connor, has a regular singing club. With, again, students with no, background in singing are welcome to join, and those just do wonders when it comes to sort of keeping you healthy. You want to find something of that nature. There's a gaming club. There are people doing special activities every now and then. They're not necessarily, regularly scheduled, but they'll be announced either through SMICSU, that is your student organization, or directly through faculty channel. And you should take advantage of those film nights. Of course, the Dawns will also have a set of activities for you, very local surrounding your buildings.
It's definitely safe to say there's something on campus for everyone. And there are opportunities to find those through our student union and your Dawns. Also, getting involved through the academic channels, participating in the student unions and stuff like that is so important. And I think getting involved really gives you a well-rounded experience and also helps your academics because it lets you take care of your mental and physical health, and so you can better focus back on school. Mm-hmm.
Develop mentorship relationships with some of the senior students, people for a while, and that can help you in your writing, your work. scheduling, right? The only, I guess, note to keep in mind here is that you don't want to overburden yourself with the extracurricular either, right? So better to pick one thing that you can commit to and that will bring regularity to your schedule than scatter yourself or spread yourself too thin. But if you take 4 courses in your first semester, it gives you a bit of a chance to explore and see what you like, and keep at it. Again, don't forget your hobbies. They make it
Definitely.
interesting.
Yeah. So we talked about not overwhelming yourself, but is there any other advice you would give first year students to keep in mind during their first year?
Sort of more of a general wisdom type thing.
Yeah.
Take advice. So the problem with university education is that once you step inside of it, you enter a very competitive bubble, and a kind of echo chamber where other students are stressed, and all that reverberates, and it creates a climate that can be, in some cases, quite nefarious. So there will be time where you're very much challenged. You're disappointed with your grades when your social life is not what it used to be. You'll have personal tragedies of different scales that will happen to you during the course of the 4 years you'll be here or more. So it's important to keep perspective on, the place that your university education should have with respect to your life, right? So I think a lot of people come in with a sense that this is it. This is very important. You go through university, you're going to get grades that will give you the job that will determine what the rest of your career will be like. Most likely, particularly if you are in the humanities, if you enroll in sort of those broader programs, that's not the case. The university education is not going to take you from point A to point B. And because that's the case, you're not necessarily going to find a direct correlation between, let's say, a perfect score on all your first year classes and success later on. So you don't want your identity, your personal sense of who you are, to be determined by your grades and by, broadly speaking, your academic success. You're worth a lot more than that, and the kind of connections you build with people, those will serve you very much at that level. So keep a sense of perspective on what's going on, and hopefully you won't feel overwhelmed.
That's always something I continue to keep in mind, is to not compare myself to my peers. Like you said, everyone is on a different path in university. And I feel like there is a pressure to complete your undergrad in 4 years, but everyone's on their own path. And like you said, in the humanities, getting perfect marks in first year doesn't necessarily equal success. And I think it's very important for everyone to remember that we're all still humans first, and that we all have our own thing going on, and to not feel the pressure of other people surrounding us.
And I think, broadly speaking, it's also a societal pressure, and perhaps even to some extent to parental pressure, right? To go into certain fields of studies that you may or may not be, in fact, suited for. And there's nothing wrong with deciding, as you're in a process of, taking all those courses, that what you thought was your path is in fact, a dead end, that you want to, meander a little bit. I say that, to my first year students in a computer science crossover course that I teach, because most students who come in there have a very narrow sense of what they want to achieve and do later in life, without really having had a sense of what it means to be a computer scientist, but broadly speaking, of studying. And so I'm hoping to sort of, draw some people into my own field, or, other humanistic field to complement, let's say, the hard science or social science.
I experienced that in my first year. I was enrolled in the life sciences, and then I took one elective in humanities, and now I found my passion in what I'm majoring in. And I can't encourage that enough for people, not to completely switch what they're doing, but to definitely keep an eye open and explore different things, because these programs can be so complementary to each other, like you said, with the computer science and humanities aspect.
A shout out perhaps to the college's programs, right? So there's 4 of them that we offer. I teach in the Christianity and Culture, which is very much a general education program. If you speak to your parents about the sort of old classical courses or grade books courses, we're leaning in that direction rather than specializing. There's a book and media program, which is very well known at University of Toronto. And that will take you into more contemporary topics, but also take courses in the history of the book and, broadly speaking, anchoring to this. Celtic studies and medieval studies, very niche programs that are worth exploring. And all of these actually work well together. There's a synergy between these different courses, and the faculty know one another. We teach across those different programs. You may want to think local. If you're interested in taking humanities courses, you're at St. Mike's, you're not going to be necessarily taking a lot of courses at St. Mike's if your major is outside. Here's an opportunity to connect with people who actually, care and be around, and not hesitate to make use of us, so to speak, because we're quite keen on helping you do well.
Yeah, the staff members at St. Mike's are so passionate about what they're studying and getting students from outside perspective in their classes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So speaking about humanities in specific, do you think there are any challenges that first-year students would face in the program, if there are any, and what solutions would you propose?
So I think this is not specific to the humanities. It's a more general issue, I think, with perhaps the way the high school education, is not standardized. I find that a lot of students come into universities with a sense of a discipline, and they forget that the most important skill that they'll develop throughout the next few years is learning how to write clearly and read efficiently. Right? So reading and writing is something that all of you, of course, know how to do. You're getting at UFT, like you're probably even quite good at it compared to, the average person in high school. But university reading, university writing is quite different from, writing a blog entry or emails or reading a newspaper, right? And I cannot stress enough the importance of cultivating that aspect of your work. If you write clearly, you will be able to express complex ideas more easily. You will be able to impress your TAs and teachers. It will make a huge difference. If success is what you have in mind, the number one thing you need to do is improve your writing. And then reading, I think that's particularly the case for science students, more so than humanities. You're not going to be encouraged to do a lot of reading in those science courses. You'll be reading textbooks, of course, but you're not going to develop good style with that, nor a very broad range of interest. So read. You'll absorb, quite a bit through the process of doing so and become faster at it. And you'll come out of university better prepared and a lot more attractive for an employer. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. There's the interdisciplinary aspect again, that everything comes together in education.
Yeah. I mean, you can transfer these skills in directions, right?
Mm-hmm.
I teach in a specific history course you'll forget about in 10 years. Right? There's certain methodological elements that will stay with you.
Exactly, yeah. And there's so many writing resources at St. Mike's and U of T that are here to support students if they need those.
I'm very glad you're mentioning that. Mm-hmm. So all of you will probably get some kind of orientation about the library, the Kale Library. As part of the Kale Library is the Writing Center. And I happen to be right now director of the Writing Center, so I'm sort of, putting this forward. You'll have to register to a system called the WC Online. And few students, in fact, register out of the total St. Mike's community. But once you have access to our writing instructors, as well as drop-in hours. And you can make appointments. for either one-on-one or in sort of, again, drop-in settings to help you improve your writing. You can bring specific works you're working on, not to get a proofread so much as either brainstorming your ideas or helping you structure your work better, or in some cases learn specific points of grammar. So special invitation, of course, for those of you whose native language is not English. But also the native English speakers, I think, can really benefit from this, and our instructors are superb. So make use of that. Sign up.
Definitely for everyone. And will that still be continuing on if we are in a online hybrid in September?
Yeah. The good news is that appointments can be scheduled for the time being remotely, and can take place synchronously through your computer from home. So, and in fact, we don't know yet what the Writing Center's position will be. It may be that all appointments are done online. It may be that some are done in person. Either way, we're going to be there, and we can accommodate you. So
perfect. That's good to know.
Sign up early, because there's so many appointments available, and there are close to 5,000 students at St. Mike's.
That's a good note. And something I always remember is I'll make appointments when I know I have an assignment due. It could be a few weeks away or a month away, but I'll make an appointment around that general time just to get a check-in about an assignment. Yeah.
Or even better yet, you start on your assignment very early.
Yes.
If you have a syllabus at the beginning of a term that tells you there's a research paper coming up 3 months from now, it feels that it's very far away, but it really creeps up on you, and then suddenly you're stuck. I remember as a student, I would as soon as I would get the syllabus, I would start on reading ahead and doing some research. It's good practice, because that way you can do a little bit every now and then you can get the feedback you need at different stages rather than all at once.
Definitely, yeah. So on the note of support services, can you explain what office hours are? And if students find office hours intimidating, do you have any advice on how they could be more comfortable approaching them and coming to office hours?
Okay. Office hours, so every faculty and often TAs will set aside a certain amount of time on a weekly basis, so that students who want to come and meet with them to discuss their work, discuss specific assignments, grades, that they can do so with some degree of privacy, and for us to get to know you a bit better. Right? So some faculty will have office hours done by appointment. That's usually my case. I like that flexibility. Others will actually set a time specific moment in the week, and you should make use of that time. It can be intimidating, I suppose, depending on the faculty. I don't think I would be intimidating, but you'll have some more senior faculty who do only research, and they're less inviting, perhaps. But you'd be surprised how sad and lonely faculty is, and we enjoy the company of younger people coming in, and it can have to do with your work. It can have to do with your personal life as well. I think I can speak at the very least for the faculty at St. Mike's that we are all very much committed on ensuring that you're integrating well, and that you're thriving over the years. So other than that, I'd say just learn to write a formal email. Introduce yourself, because you're in first year. It's very possible profs won't know who you are, and start on the polite side, and then if you feel that you can engage more in a conversation later on, then you'll get the cue.
Yeah, I have always found that when I attend office hours, whether it's with a professor or a TA, I'm always greeted with a friendly face, because I think you're just there. You all are so passionate about what you have studied and what you teach that you're just so excited to talk about that. And I think students should know that you are there to help them, or even just talk about what you're teaching. And if you have that common interest, it shouldn't be intimidating.
And if you're not convinced by this, just think of it more perhaps like a mercenary. At some point you may want letters of recommendations, right? And it won't be enough to have taken one course with someone and have sat quietly in the background, right? one way to establish a rapport with faculty over the years, perhaps even take on some research project with them, is to schedule, meetings early on, and, not necessarily overdo it, but we appreciate the visits. And I should say, if you enroll in the Christianity and Culture program or take courses in Christianity and Culture, we have a weekly social for all students. And I also use that time to meet with students. So food, coffee. So
yes, it's always a good time.
Remotely this time around, probably.
Yes. You can bring your own food and drinks.
Only in person, yes.
Yes. So is there one tip of success that you would give to first-year students coming in, whether that be academically in this program, if their goal is grad school or research or entering the workforce, whatever their goals may be? Is there one piece of success that you would give as an advice?
Well, I feel we've covered several of those, right? So, start early, get rid of your phone, try to balance your work life with some leisure. All of these, I think, make sense. Stay, keep a good perspective on what it is that counts. I guess I would say, what makes someone successful at what they do is that they manage to convince others that they're great at what they do. And you can do that first by becoming a good writer, but more generally, I think it's being passionate about something that will make a difference, right? You want to wake up in the morning, ideally wanting to go to class or wanting to get to work on a project. And there's no way it's going to happen all the time. There will be mornings you don't want to go to school, right? I mean, that's normal. But if you can find the right program and get to work on projects that you actually care about, it will make things a lot easier. You'll start to realize that not only are you there as a sort of passive recipient, but you're actively engaging in the production of knowledge and in the generation of meaning to the world around you. And if you can find that, then university is going to be extraordinarily pleasant experience. So hopefully that's your case. And if it's not, just go through it. You'll be successful at some point, even if it doesn't feel like it. You'll have all the tools that you need in order to do so by the end of it.
Exactly. Yeah. I always find that if you enjoy what you're doing and studying, then it's just so much easier to do. And I find that through my academics and extracurriculars.
And don't be afraid of failing every now and then. That can happen. It's unpleasant, but you'll get to know yourself better. And in the end, you'll come through. And that's what matters.
Exactly. Yeah. One low mark isn't going to ruin your undergraduate degree.
Or your career.
No. Yeah.
Because employers won't look at your grades past a certain point, right? It's more important to have the right connection and the capacity to engage socially in conversation than, to memorize everything you'll be asked to memorize or crunch at paper writing time. So
exactly, yeah.
And if you discover that even university itself is not for you, right? And it happens in some cases. There's nothing wrong with that either. It's
no.
Like a different path that you're going to take that will take you elsewhere.
Exactly. Everyone has their own pathway in their lives. Yeah. And we'll find success in what they're doing. Yeah.
And again, everybody goes through rough patches, and the university is there to help accommodate if that's the case.
Yes. So is there anything else you would like to say to the incoming class?
You'll have a strange first year experience. And maybe, who knows, we don't know how long that will last. So just be patient with your faculty, because we're learning through the process as well. And hopefully, we'll get through this.
Yes. we're all in it together, and we're all learning the online.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if it's a source of stress, remember that it is well distributed across everybody in the system. So try to, bracket that, focus on your work, and it will be fun.
Yeah. So we're going to end with that advice, and we're going to end this academic orientation, and we wish you all the best with your first year at St. Mike's and the University of Toronto.